Good afternoon, everyone. We'll call this meeting the Joint Minerals Committee meeting together for interim topic selection. Thank you for your interest. I see the room is packed. There's obviously a lot of good topics we're going to discuss, and the testimony today will load us up, I'm sure, with what we want to do. Do you want to call the roll before we get started?
Senator Cooper.
Here.
Senator Jones. Yeah. Senator Nethercott.
Excused.
Excused.
Senator Rothfuss.
Here.
Representative Campbell.
Here.
Representative Knapp.
Here.
Representative Larson.
Here.
Representative Lawley. Here. Representative Riggins.
Here.
Representative Schmid.
Here.
Representative Tarver.
Here.
Representative Weber. Here. Co-Chairman Anderson.
Here.
Co-Chairman Heiner.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
All right. Thank you, Sue. Before we get started, could we announce the dates that we plan for these interim committee meetings, Mr.
Yep.
Fuller?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the dates that you and the co-chairman set, April 27th and 28th in Casper, June 4th and 5th in Casper, and August 27 and 28 in Cheyenne.
Okay. Any questions about that committee? Anybody going to get married on those dates? Anyone have anything else that's a big conflict?
Look like it.
No, okay. So put that in your calendar. And if you plan on a big vacation, don't do it on those days. All right, we've got a number of topics we'd like to hear some more about from the public. We'll start off with removing obstacles to achieve energy dominance in Wyoming. Anyone want to testify on that? Provide us some additional granularity. All right. It won't be the first time, Mr. Detail.
True enough, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, good afternoon. Committee members, Travis Detail with the Mining Association. And this proposed topic kind of stems from the bill that's working its way through the House right now, the Energy Dominance Fund. And just as an industry, we kind of thought that it would be good for maybe the committee, should the bill pass, to take another look, and I say another because we kind of did this in the past, at some of the barriers that may exist, be it on the regulatory side, the bonding side, or something that we could remove to kind of speed up our development of these projects. And I can't remember, Mr. Chairman, whether it was 2 years ago or 4 years ago, where we set up the Regulatory Reduction Task Force. That was a pretty helpful little exercise, I think, and industry participated in that by identifying what we felt were some of the barriers that the industry was facing, and we had a bill out of it. We didn't get the bill out of the body, but it was a good little exercise, and maybe look at doing something like that again. And I think that's the gist of that topic, Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. Detail, you've got an estimate of 8 hours here?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't suggest the time, so I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it would need 8 hours.
Okay, so that'd be quite a heavy lift if it's 8
Yeah.
hours.
I would whatever the committee would feel would be. Yeah, I would leave it to your discretion, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
All right, any questions for Mr. Detail? Thank you.
Mr.
Please.
Chairman, members of the committee, Rusty Bell, CEO of Energy Capital Economic Development in Gillette, and just in support of this topic, but also this really plays into the topic that was submitted on industrial siting exemptions for coal mine property. And so I don't know if it's a good idea to just say that this really lumps right into this topic, and I'm really here to talk about that, but these topics are really tied together, and so I think those.
Mr. Bell, while you're here,
Yep.
just so you don't have to come up again, why don't you talk to us about the other topic, the ICS,
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
ISC, I'm sorry.
Which one's that?
That's on page 6. Bottom of page 6.
Sure. So the idea
Industrial
of,
siting exemption on coal permit land.
thank you,
And
Mr.
Mr. Bell, excuse me just a second. Members of the committee, what I would like to have after, by tomorrow, your top 5 topics, and then we will rank those and come to a consensus of what topics, and then I'll get with Co-Chairman Anderson, and we will try to come up with the topics that we will address this interim with the input from the Senate side and the House side. So as we go through these topics, record which ones are your highest priority so you can get that to us. Mr. Bell, I apologize.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. So the idea behind this is that finding ways to cut through some of that regulatory burden that mines have actually been through for the past 5-6 decades, and being able to have an exemption on coal mine property for some of these large projects that we're working on. You know, we already have an exemption for inside of an industrial park for non-mineral activities, but we don't have it for mineral activities. A lot of the projects that our companies are working on in the Powder River Basin are mineral related. You know, whether they're working with another company that's rare earth elements, whether it's uranium conversion, whether it's potential ferroalloy, something like that. It's all mineral related, and going through the industrial siting process, when those communities, most of those communities have been through that before. I think we can work a way around an exemption that will also take into consideration the socioeconomics, you know, in those areas. So that's the idea.
Mr. Bell, are you familiar with what Utah's done with their flexible permit system just recently? Are you?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not, but I
So
will.
it's geared around industrial complexes like this and making it easier to get started, and so that's something that may be tied into this. Committee, any other discussion about this one?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
I would
Deepak.
just, while Rusty's up here, we would support this topic, the Mining Association would, and I'm not getting married on the date, Mr. Chairman, but your June dates run over the convention of the Wyoming Mining Association.
Perfect.
Change it.
It's our 70th annual convention. You're all invited if the chairman would bring it to Gillette. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Public comment.
Any public comment on those? Anything online? Sue, do we have anything online? All right, go on to the next topic then, that's on page 1, ISC bonding requirements. Anyone care to discuss that one? Representative Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to my good colleague from my same town, he can help speak to this. What we found with the, through the DEQ, through the industrial siting impact payments, our county fire in Natrona County ended up having to purchase equipment that they are obligated to for a permitted solar farm, but the solar farm has not yet begun, so it's not, the timing is not going to line up that this equipment that they're required to purchase via the permitting of the solar farm will not then allow them to recoup their costs that they've had to put out because of the completion timeline for the solar farm. And so I put it in as a topic to be able to see if we could discuss with the DEQ and the industrial siting that maybe we put up some bonds so that when the permitting is beginning, rather than do it on the backside, we do it on the front side so that those communities that will have impacts on the front end can cover their costs there.
Okay. Any questions for Representative Lean? Seeing none, thank you. Any public comments on bonding for Industrial Siting Commission? And Sue, you're going to let us know if there's anybody online, right? Okay. Moving on to the next one.
Mr. President, or
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Senator Coogan, please.
we got 3 different industrial siding.
Oh, well, thank,
items on here. I think we could combine those.
yes, what page is the next one, Senator?
Let me see if I can find them here.
The first one was Senator Boner's.
The Assertion of Senator Boners
And then there's one
on page 1.
page 8.
So Mr. Chairman,
Is,
Okay, page 8.
page 6 is one else. Yeah, page 6
Let's
also.
combine those. That's a great idea. Thank you. So page 8, we have in this Industrial Siting Council impact payments to bonds, pretty similar, isn't it? Rep-
Yeah.
There's another one
Oh.
somewhere.
So,
Page 6. Oh, I'm on 4. I wonder if it's.
One's broader and I like it.
Yeah.
The boner topic is broader.
Yeah, Representative Knapp's,
Yeah.
industrial siding.
Representative Knapp, do you have any comments on yours?
That was the one that
Okay. So it looks like we have 2 or 3 that could fall under industrial siding that we could work on. We could maybe bring some of those together. Representative Riggins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Co-Chairman, representatives. I was surprised to see my name on here a little bit, but it's very much related to what the representative brought up earlier about impact payments for, in this special case, it was related to equipment. This is more of bonding issues in advance. See if I get this right, we can quiz her if we have to. Bonding issues in advance of projects that are being considered that are up before that deciding commission. And for examples, emergency services and things like that, that might be impacted. Let's just use an example of like, if they ever get to where they have all the storage, electric storage battery things and all the fire protection you need around that. Maybe how to address that if you have one of those as an industrial siding project. Maybe a community that's nearby there need to prepare for special events that might happen as if you have an emergency in those particular situations. So they're looking to try to address that during the siting process and have some bonding directed at that, trying to provide those services or account for emergencies that might take place. And we can confirm with my other representative behind us if that's quite correct.
And Representative, I can see the concern there because some of these industrial sites that come in may need a different fire truck. They may need foam instead of water for those batteries or whatever that may be. And the municipality may not have that access to a foam truck. So I can see the concern here. Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chairman. The other topic submitted that was very similar, which by Senator Boner, talks more broadly in terms of options of advanced payment versus bonding, not necessarily predetermining which approach might be best. Are you okay with that?
Yes, yes, Representative Lawley. Yeah, that's very suitable as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further questions, any comments, testimony from the public? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Let's go to page 2, coal bed methane industrial sovereign zones. And that's kind of relates to some of this discussion we've had about Mr. Bell's topic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is in regards to pending House Bill 120 going through, and that is with our energy sovereign zones using natural gas to create value-added products, manufacture value-added products. We can make these same value-added products from coal bed methane as well. However, there was more statutory constraints, and due to that, we were not able to incorporate that into that particular bill. But coal bed methane has all the potential methane, period. So we would like to work through the statutory requirements to include coal bed methane into this proposal. That's basically all it is.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Representative
Representative
Hooper.
First, I'd like to commend you on the work you did on 120. That's a great bill.
Thank you.
Great, Bill. You did a wonderful job. This is going to be very similar. How would you feel about incorporating some pre-permitting into these zones, if you would, as far as air and land quality?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Chairman, Senator. I'm excited about that. I envision, are you familiar with Heartland Project up in Canada?
I am,
I envision something very similar coming out of this is what my vision is. You know, Wyoming tourism is so important to us and our scenic quality is everything. So my intent with House Bill 120 is to kind of prevent that industrial sprawl across our state and to create these industrial zones so we have an engine room, and I want Wyoming's engine room to roar. But at the same time, this will allow us to protect our view sheds and everything. The Heartland Project is what I envision this turning into, to where we'll have all these industrial places in one little spot. And like I say, that'll be Wyoming's engine room, and I want to chip that dude. Let's roll coal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. I think that's pretty visionary.
All right. Any public comment on this topic? Seeing none, I'm interested in the next one. Sourcing curling stones in Wyoming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you've got everyone's attention on this one. Senator?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Very good to see you. I brought my chief geologist with me today. So seriously, I suppose you guys didn't know that the tops on our desks came from Wyoming. I'm positive that one of the two stones is from Wyoming, and I think both of them are. And I was actually here before we had new desks, and it was quite a deal to find a source of stone for our desks and make them different in the two houses and kind of be emblematic of Wyoming. And then along comes the Olympics, you know, pretty exciting. It was great to watch. And I got reconnected with a sport that I knew in Lander, which was curling. And I used to, see, I got to tell you some trivia. I used to build the skating rink in Lander for a lot of years. That was my job. And I built, we had a set of curling stones that somebody stole, by the way, later. But we set up a curling rink and we had curling in Lander. Now, my geologist will explain this, but there's no reason why we couldn't do more with stone in Wyoming. Now there's a taxation issue because we don't tax it very much. But on the other hand, there's quite a bit of value added that could be done. And let me ask directly, if it's okay with you, could we produce curling stones in Wyoming? Do we have the stone?
I guess I'm being summoned as the geologist. Thank you
Please
for.
introduce yourself as an.
Oh, Joanne True, geologist out of Casper, Wyoming. We early on were talking about the Olympics, and I did point out that as current chair of the Wyoming Geologic Survey, that they put out a paper with some mineralogical data indicating that the same mineralogy that exists in Wales and in Scotland where they source them also exist in at least three granites in Wyoming. And so I was asked to help put this light topic up for consideration. So I'm happy to answer any technical questions that you may have.
Any questions? Senator Cooper.
I would, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. True, could you explain light? Because I think these stones are fairly heavy, aren't they?
I think they are. I think they're probably, yeah, can't talk about the specific gravity, but they are a granite, so a true granite. Yes, so thank you for the question. Excuse me, through the chair.
Is it? And she mentioned, Mr. Chairman, true granite. It's not named for your family.
It is not, with a small t.
All right. Any other questions? Representative Riggins. And then
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. True. So would you be asking this committee to try to find, is rulemaking related to sourcing these stones or doing the authorizing the state geology to identify the location? What would you be expecting us to come up with? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Representative Riggins through the chair. I did speak with the state geologist and warned her that I would be bringing this topic up as requested by Senator Case. And yes, that would be my request B, to work with the Geologic Survey to indicate potential source locations for this. And I do have the 3 granites for anyone who wants any sort of technical information where those would outcrop and be potential sources.
Mr. Chairman,
Chairman.
may I take on that a little bit?
Yes.
So the idea is maybe to involve the business council and more of the economic development side of this, really into the terms of quarried dimensional stone.
That's exactly.
But this could be a kind of a flagship thing. Supposing we maybe go to the university and we get some people involved there to produce the first set of Wyoming curling stones. We make a big deal out of it. We have a competition with our Scottish competition but we bring attention to the fact that there's a lot of things in Wyoming that we could do in the dimension stone quarry world that we're not doing. And, countertops, more. But curling stones, people think they're pretty special, and it comes right off of the Olympics. We could get some publicity for maybe trying to push this along, and that publicity would be good for Wyoming. Even if we just produced a set and we went head to head with those guys in skirts.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Senator, as I'm hearing you, I think there's a lot more potential for this material than just curling stones.
Absolutely.
And what we're trying to do is identify it and maybe develop an industry around quarrying that rock. Would that be where you're headed?
Very fair. This is just a camel's nose under the tent, but it's kind of a fun one, Mr. Chairman. And we might find some folks that would be willing to take the challenge without too much effort or money. And then we could think about really the entire industry downstream potential from quarried, beautiful Wyoming stone.
Co-Chair Anderson.
Mr. Chairman, I'm a little concerned that this senator finds that curling to be entertaining. I don't know. I don't know about him.
Mr. Chairman, did any of you see the girls, the US girls lose to the Italian girls? It was quite a deal. In fact, I was with Mr. Krieger that night when I watched that game. It's a pretty cool sport, really.
Yes.
And it would bring a lot of publicity to Wyoming because nobody else makes curling sports. It's just the beginning.
Mr. Co-Chair, we may need to look at the ratings on the Olympics and see how popular it really is, because I think it was pretty popular. All right, any other questions?
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Senator Cooper. Childcare as an economic driver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bringer of this topic has asked me to withdraw it.
Okay. So if any of you put this as a high topic, high on your interim topic, that has been withdrawn. Thank you, Senator. Moving on to page 4, we have the Business Council restructure. So members of the public, what our initial plans are in the conversation is to allow the Joint Appropriations Committee to do a deep dive into the Wyoming Business Council's governance and structure. And then we would come together as a joint committee with the Appropriations Committee on our meeting in August. So they would do the deep dive, and then we would work together with them to come up with some bills that will hopefully help the economic development here within the state and maybe make some adjustments to the Wyoming Business Council.
We have another one that probably would be related to that on page 7, the bottom of the page. Wyoming Economic Development Structure Review.
I think that
That probably fit
probably
into
fit
that
right.
also.
So that's our plans right now is we would meet jointly with the Appropriations Committee and come up with some bills that we could further into the session. Any discussion about that? Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the only discussion I have is who should do the deep dive. And I would feel like it would be more appropriate for the Minerals Committee to do the deep dive. It's our committee. I know that the Appropriations Committee does like to, take things and do what they want with them. That's what we're used to. But just in terms of history, since the Business Council has reported through this committee, it seems like a more appropriate approach for us to be doing that heavy lifting work and then check. I think it's an exceptional idea to touch base with them and get together and hold a joint meeting. But that would be my inclination.
Very, very good comments and something that we need to consider. The appropriations has nothing to do for the summer.
That's the best way.
So this would be their sole topic if we do it that way. Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to echo those statements. I mean, this is a group that's has been under our purview. Our name is Business and Economic Development, and or at least I would propose a compromise that if Appropriations really wants the restructuring, I think it's still appropriate and helpful for this committee to talk about what is Business and Economic Development. That is a part of our committee name, as part of our charge as a standing committee. So I feel like to just push all that a direction out of our committee isn't edify the committee in any way or add maybe to the discussion. So maybe would, just suggest that we not lump those two together. And if the decision's been made that it's gonna go to the Wyoming Business Council restructure is gonna go to appropriations. That's one thing, but I would still advocate we keep both. But as a compromise, say, let's at least keep the one that's about generally what does it mean for Wyoming in terms of business and economic development? Because this is what this committee needs to understand moving forward and grasp, and what's that part of our charge?
Thank you, Representative. And ultimately, the Wyoming Business Council answers through this committee. So we would have jurisdiction there through this standing committee. So, thank you. Representative Riggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wondered if, I know we have a bill, and I don't know if it's passed about an audit related to WBC, and is that going to be part of included in this discussion? So I don't know how long that's going to take. So just want to take that in consideration.
Yes, that bill was from Representative Geringer, and that is part of this discussion. Any discussion? Public comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
a comment.
Representative Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's really important to take into account the JAC recommendations on what they had found from the past and what the Business Council has done or hasn't done, even financially, to make sure that that's part of our decisions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Senator Cooper, looks like you're ready to talk.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think, of course, we listened to what the JAC had to say, but ultimately it's our decision. It is our committee.
Yes. And they can help us with the financial aspect, but ultimately we will be the ones carrying the bill and we will be the ones with final approval on that. Okay, let's move along to the next topic on page 4. Oh, was there any public testimony on that? We do have some public testimony. There are people out there. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Bob McLaurin with WHAM, and we're here to support both of these topics and don't have a position on which committee it should go to. But we're the boots on the ground in the cities and towns and supportive of you moving forward with both of these.
And I agree with Representative Lawley that we may need to bifurcate those and have the Wyoming Business Council separate from WIDA here. So please continue.
Hi, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Dawson Klusner, and I'm with the Wyoming Economic Development Association. So the Wyoming Business Council had noted that they wanted to work with WIDA, the Wyoming Association of Municipalities, and the County Commissioners Association. We haven't had any communication or coordination with them as of yet on their part. But I just wanted to reiterate that we have been actively working to get our communities and local economic developers to the table, to have their voices heard in this ongoing conversation, and we'll continue to do just that. In the coming months, we'll be actively touring the state, meeting with our municipalities and our economic development organizations, collecting data on what works, what doesn't, and how we as a state should move forward in terms of our economic development structure. So we're happy to continue to be a part of this conversation.
So the discussion on that interim topic talks a lot about Wyoming Business Council and the broader role of the WIDA intertwining with the Business Council. Can you develop that and give us a little more granularity what your vision is?
Sure. So just to clarify, Mr. Chairman, we are not affiliated directly with the Wyoming Business Council currently. So we're just working with the boots on the ground, local economic developers, our communities, and really just trying to strategize and hear from them what the best path moving forward is, and just trying to be that bringer of their voices to the table.
Okay. Any questions for WIDA? Mr. Bell?
Mr. Chairman, Rusty Bell, CEO of Energy Capital Economic Development in Gillette, just in support of this general topic and making sure that, you know, like there's a lot of local economic development folks from around the state that are ready to be at the table and have that conversation. So just stand in support of it. Answer any questions if you have any.
All right, thank you. I think this is a topic that we could explore and make some improvements on. This is the Economic Development Committee. Thank you. Any other comments or testimony? All right, seeing none. Next one on page 4 is domestic preference for residential general service contracts.
Who brought that up?
We have a distinguished guest here to talk to us about this one.
Oh.
Mr. Red.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Raymond Red with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming wanted to bring this topic to this committee, but I wanted to make sure that the committee also understood that this topic that we bring would be beneficial to all Wyoming industry from our perspective. And so we wanted to maybe have this discussion. We have drafted a bill that would just serve as a template for now that would basically provide a preference to Wyoming companies in certain contexts. So just as background, Title 16 does have a resident preference for procurement of goods and services for public works. So that provides, I think, a 5% preference. And there's also a subcategory, and I don't know the history behind it, but 10% for copies and things like that. There's an actual additional 5% related to that type of service. But the definition of public works in the title for Title 16 is it limits it to specific industry. So for construction and renovation type projects only. So in Title 9, which is the procurement statutes that apply to other types of things, goods and services, there's no similar preference statutes that are found there. And so what we would propose to do is to amend that section to allow for some preference to Wyoming companies in that area. And I recognize there's a couple different things that need to be considered in doing that. But I think that we can certainly discuss those topics to ensure that we're not, you know, making other states feel like we're a closed area. I mean, and certainly cost is important, but due to the multiplier effect that does occur when you keep local funds within the state, I think you do see a benefit there, even if there is a little bit of a higher cost that's limited. And in addition to that, this wouldn't be like a silver bullet, so to speak. There's additional things that may be required under the procurement statutes that even would, disqualify a Wyoming company from providing the services if they simply can't do it. So if they don't have the number of staff or they don't have the capabilities to provide that service, the RFP process could be, still determine that contracting business probably couldn't provide that service. So again, it's just a way to think about it from an economics perspective and the multiplier effect, and understanding that that does apply to Wyoming and could apply to Wyoming to keep those monies in here. And I think we see that in Title 16, but we don't see that in Title 9.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Co-Chair Anderson?
Mr. Chairman, I'm having a hard time pulling this together to minerals and economic development. That 5% preference and everything has always been in transportation, mostly construction and transportation. You're saying we would make it broad that any company that's in Wyoming would get 5%. That'd be probably some insurance companies and that kind of thing?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Co-Chairman. So what we would propose to do is to add similar language to Title 16, and it would be broad enough to where it would apply to goods and services that are defined within that title. So right now in Title 16, which correctly only applies to construction and other types of services, it excludes services that would be considered goods and services under Title 9. So that preference requirement is not found there. Now, I'm sure that a state agency could apply preference with discretion under Title 9 if they felt that was important. But by adding some language to section or Title 9 or Title 9, it would allow for goods and services to be given preference to. And so from a business economic standpoint, that would potentially create the multiplier effect, which would keep local funds within the state. And I'm certainly no economist, but I do think that there is some opportunity there. But I also think that in drafting something like this, we would certainly want to look for any kind of exceptions that might apply. I think when states receive federal funding, there could potentially be some exceptions that apply there. I think, if there's other things that need to be looked at as exceptions, we would be completely open to that too.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Red? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony. Any public testimony on this topic? Seeing none. Moving to page 5. Senator Jones, wholesaling of real estate. It looks like you have 2 topics.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Please proceed.
I'm not sure if you're all familiar with what wholesaling is. Basically, it's just an outside disinterested party convinces someone to enter into a real estate contract with them, and then they proceed to go ahead and sell the property themselves. So they agree to buy the property from, most of the time, elderly folks at a much lower rate than what the home is worth. And then they go out and look for a buyer. And then at the end of the process, they get the bulk of the equity out of the home, and the sellers get a much smaller amount. They never actually purchase the property. And it's just, it's basically doing real estate without having a real estate license. So it looks like some states have, that is the fix, is that it is a real estate transaction and that you should be licensed in order to do that. But it is happening across the state. In my profession, I do get phone calls from people. Right now, the statutes are a little bit gray on that. And really, the only thing says right now is that they aren't allowed to advertise the property, but they still do, because there's no way for them to sell it without advertising. How do you sell a property if no one knows that you have it for sale? So they are advertising. They call all the realtors and they tell us that hey, I've got this house over here, the door's unlocked, show it to yourself, bring me a buyer. And then again, they get the bulk of the equity out of the home without the seller actually getting, and the homeowner getting any of that money or a very small portion of it. So this is just to try to look at the ways to curtail this, to protect our elderly folks, and make sure that they're getting the equity and their families getting the equity that they deserve.
All right, thank you, Senator. Any questions? So Senator, before you leave there, give me your thought process why they should go through this committee.
I actually didn't submit it to this committee. Lori did, but I think she's thinking economic development. I mean, I don't know
Versus
that.
corporations or something like that. Okay. All right. While you're there, do you want to take the next topic as well, or you want phone a friend?
One more speaker.
So any public on this topic of wholesaling of real estate? Any public comments? Representative Knapp, please.
Mr. Chairman, I just did want to comment. We are looking at 4 different items of fraud in corporations. If you should choose this, it's better there for that topic. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Ms. Levin?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Jody Levin. I'm here on behalf of the Trona Industry and the Wyoming Mining Association, jumping on the economic bandwagon. But before I begin, only because I was limited by the word count when you go to submit something through the submission form, this request is beyond Trona and the Mining Association. It's supported by the Petroleum Association, the Stock Growers, Farm Bureau, WAM, the county commissioners, the irrigation districts, and WIDA, and I'm sure I left out some of my friends. But the point is, it's a broad coalition that is bringing this request forward to you. And not to discount the wonderful work that happens in the Select Water Committee, this request actually proposes that there would be a joint discussion about this, but this is to look at the economic impacts to Wyoming if there were to be a curtailment on the Colorado River. Our concern is that it's a real looming threat and the economic impacts could be severe to Wyoming. So it's your certainly agriculture as the biggest user on the Colorado River, but it's also your mining industry. You've got large industrials, you have recreation, you have municipalities, local governments. So it's a enormous topic, which is why the request is for 8 hours. Certainly cognizant of the committee's workload. We would appreciate any discussion in that regard. And really, it's just to help broaden the understanding of what is likely, coming down the line if we continue to have these horrific drought years and we see a potential curtailment. I think there's a lot of people who don't understand what is coming. And I think even those that do understand the risk really don't understand how to prepare for it and how to address it should it come.
Thank you, Ms. Levin. So 8 hours, that includes the half-day joint session with Select Water, or is that exclusive of that?
Mr. Chairman, that would be inclusive.
Okay. Questions? Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Chairman. Just mostly a comment. This is the number 2 topic for Select Water, but I do think there is value in a look of this committee and its charge about the economic impact. So again, I do support that idea, and I'm also encourage our industry to come to Select Water when we're talking about this topic so that we can have that cross-pollination of that economic impact a little bit and hear from them. That's not our normal, we have a great constituency in Select Water, but we're at a kind of an inflection point, and this is the space, as I mentioned before, on the floor. But I do support the idea of this committee also understanding for our industries and our agriculture, what is the economic cost we're looking at, and maybe together we can come up with some solutions. So I do support look at it, although it is our number 2 topic, and we will be diving into it as well.
All right. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Levin. Okay, so public comments, public comments. Okay, that takes us to page 7. Representative Larson, unclaimed property law update. We'd already done that one.
2, 13, and 10 we combined.
Yeah. So we're on page 7, top of page 7 now.
Doesn't look like JT.
Maybe in about 20 years.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Co-Chairman, members of the committee. Bill Pilger, General Counsel with the State Treasurer's Office. With me is Jeff Robertson, our unclaimed property administrator. We were here last year without success, but we continue to work on our suggestions. What we're looking to do here is make some targeted amendments to our Unclaimed Property Act. In our request, we identified that roughly 2/3 of our unclaimed property that we are keeping safe for the citizens of Wyoming and businesses are now coming from liquidated digital assets. And so what we'd like to do is add some definitions, including the definition of a digital asset. We'd also like to create a process as to how we should be handling those digital assets. We'd also like to add a definition for electronic mail and providing notice by electronic mail. Our act was originally adopted in 1993, but it was based on a 1981 model act. So it's nearly 45 years old. Obviously doesn't contemplate things like email, which, as we know anymore, business is pretty much conducted that way and only that way. We're still supposed to be sending paper letters. So some simple changes there. We'd also like to create a streamlined process for small claims, low dollar amounts. People are reluctant to submit claims on small dollar values because the paperwork potentially in the forms they prohibit them, or it's just too much work for them to pursue these small dollar amounts. So we're looking at a small claims process, and we'd also like to create some confidentiality protections. We deal with a lot of proprietary and other confidential and tax returns, stuff like that. We'd like to be able to make sure that we're keeping that information protected for the citizens and businesses in Wyoming. We have actually drafted amendments after being here last year. So really what this looks like is a matter of having the committee review that language, of course, fine tuning it. So really, as far as we're concerned, drafting is largely complete, of course, subject to the committee's review and any modifications thereof. So we've identified 2 hours. My guess is it's an hour or less, again, depending on how much input the committee has on those particular amendments.
Thank you very much. Your patience, I appreciate your patience waiting for a year for us to take this up.
Mr. Chairman, I think we're actually on about 5 years. We've been at this for some time now, and we've kind of refined what we're doing, but thank you.
Maybe it's time that we take that up. Committee, any questions for the treasurers? Thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay, any public comments about that? Anyone else been waiting 5 years to be able to have this committee do some work for them? All right, seeing none.
Lady in red, but she's going the other way.
Lady in Red, that's a movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, we've completed page 8. We're at page 9 now. Senator Ruffus. Oil and gas produced water reuse. Do you want to phone a friend?
My friend is showing up right now, so yes, I would.
Mr. Kropatch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Tom Kropatch. I'm the Oil and Gas Supervisor for the Oil and Gas Commission. We're bringing this topic again. It's a continuation or maybe an extension of a topic you all discussed 2 years ago in that interim session where you sponsored and then subsequently passed a bill that allowed the commission to permit centralized produced water reuse reservoirs. In this case, we're back to ask for a little bit additional authority there. The industry is continuing to ask us to permit that infrastructure, but as they're building that out, they're now asking us to authorize that infrastructure when there's water sharing between operators occurring. We think we actually would have authority to do that. The way the statutes are written currently gives us the authority to permit infrastructure for produced water reuse. The concern we have is we also have a non-commercial clause in our statutes where we can't do it in a commercial scenario. What's occurring is industry does need a little bit of monetary, a little bit of money to exchange hands there because of the cost to handle someone else's water. So if one operator is providing water into a system, there is a cost to treat and store and use that water. So there are some scenarios where it could be considered commercial, even if they're just trying to cover their cost. So we would like to study that issue and see if the commission could be granted authority to permit that, even in or just to permit water reuse and the infrastructure associated with that, even in a commercial scenario. We are not trying to get into the commercial disposal scenario that the DEQ has for COWDIS, for example, commercial oil field waste disposal facilities. These would only be permitted for reuse scenario and not disposal. And we're also not trying to get into the state engineer's business of permitting the byproduct water, which is what produced water is considered in their statutes. We're not trying to permit byproduct water for a beneficial use, so they would still need to go do all of those processes if that's what they're getting into. But just the pipelines, reservoirs, the infrastructure associated, want to be clear that we have authority to do that, even if they have to charge a cost to another operator to transfer that water. And the benefit there for the industry is it reduces cost on disposal, reduces cost for purchasing of fresh water, reduces the use of fresh water for things where they, for activities where they could reuse the produced water that they already have. So I think a benefit for industry to help keep it competitive with other areas.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kropatch.
Mr. Chairman, one more thing in there. I think I put in 3 hours. I think it could be much quicker than that. It just depends on how deep of a dive you want on processes and history on produced water reuse.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Senator?
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to say this is one of those topics where it's sort of a win-win for everyone, and we're kind of standing in the way. So mostly it's if we could get out of the way and let things operate as they need to operate. So hopefully we can move this one forward.
All right. I hate it when government stands in the way.
Right.
All right. Any public comments about this interim topic? Seeing none, now we'll open it up for public. If there's any ideas that have not been brought forward for the interim that you would like to discuss or have the committee consider. Any other comments, any other interim topics you would like to bring forward?
We covered that. Oops. Guess we didn't. Oh,
She leaves.
the other way.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, she is phoning a friend too. Bringing in the bouncer.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ashley Harpstreet, I'm the Executive Director for Wyoming Association of Municipalities and also the Administrator for Wyoming Economic Development Association. I know you heard from some of our colleagues earlier as we were toggling being upstairs with Joint Appropriations Committee on several other topics, but mainly I wanted to bring back some feedback from upstairs about the Wyoming Business Council and make sure you guys heard some of our comments that I don't think my colleagues brought to you that won't be repetitive. One thing is with Joint Appropriations Committee that they're lumping in with Wyoming Business Council topic, hopefully in conjunction with this group. I do believe, like you said earlier, that this is the home committee and it really should stay here. But appropriations does have a part in this process. So however you guys decide to do that, they are looking at rolling in consensus block grant funding in with the topic in the conversation as business ready communities is kind of off the table right now. As a recovering economic developer, I can tell you that infrastructure dollars are key to both of our communities and economic development. And this just really gets the picking winners and losers conversation off the table. And we invest in ourselves. I wrote a editorial right before session started that said, quit picking winners and losers, and let's pick Wyoming. And I think if we invest in infrastructure, that could solve a lot of systematic problems, including in housing. Just a couple of things I would like you to think about potentially as you explore this this topic is the accountability, statutory authority, as a lot of what's in the statutes right now around the Wyoming Business Council is irrelevant. And we have other agencies now like Wyoming Energy Authority that wasn't a thing when they wrote that initial statute. Also program performance, metrics, and timelines. Right now, we are gathering information from both sets of members to understand what programming they feel works because they're usually the end recipients of the programming. We have a lot of concerns of the current programming right now because it's overlapping what our locals are doing anyways. And so we want to make sure that we're working together and doing the best on the behalf of Wyoming. I brought with me my friend who I just drug in by the neck collar here, Mr. Brad Enzi from Laramie. That's a practicing economic developer and has been kind of on this mission with me this whole session. So turn it over to him.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about economic development to the Oversight Authority of Economic Development. One of the challenges that we do have is what are the tools and who's in charge of recruiting? If you want to boil down what we do to a really simple level is what tools do communities have, economic development agencies have to put programs or recruitments in place? And then, what do we consider a win and where do those wins come from? And so I would just encourage as we look at it to look at metrics, what do we consider a win as the body of the legislature? When we look at economic development, it doesn't go far to say, is that jobs? Is it, how do we judge those metrics? And I think the last thing I would leave you with when we look at economic development is we're already out in all 23 counties doing economic development as economic developers. And so Ashley and I are putting together, I don't know if you call it a road show or boots on the ground or door to door at our local economic development communities over the next few months to really have some of those discussions with the local groups and say what is working, what's not working. Then it's not one size fits all. What works in Laramie doesn't necessarily work in, Worland. And so we need to kind of get that, and we want to aggregate that data to make your interim work have the most pull of data from the actual boots on the ground in Wyoming doing it. And so that'll probably take us a couple months to get together because it's going to be a lot of road miles.
Okay, thank you. Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for those comments. And I particularly like that you pointed out small rural Wyoming. It is very different there, and that's a constant concern I've had in the area of economic development. I think attempts are being made to address it, but I'm not sure we've really talked to the communities to understand the nature of where to begin there, and some of the building blocks aren't there, and what do you do about that? So I appreciate you including that, and welcome to Worland when you come. So I look forward to seeing you.
All right, any other comments? Representative Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you both for being here. My question is for economic development and for WAM. How long have your entities been in going or created or?
So, Mr. Chairman, Representative Weber, WAM has been incorporated since 1927, but I got to look back on WIDA. It's probably in the last 25, 30 years.
All right, thank you. So this is a topic that we're hearing a lot from our municipalities right now, that they can't deal with infrastructure or with new economic development because they can't even flush their toilets because the existing infrastructure needs some repair. So this is a topic I think is important to all of us, is how do we get those grants to the right location? And I think that's why we need to work in concert with the Appropriations Committee, Joint Appropriations, so that we can make sure these grants continue to flow, but they get to the right place where it's most needed. Is that true statement?
Mr. Chairman, absolutely. I mean, in your neck of the woods, we need sewer desperately and wastewater. I went to the Business Council in October at their meeting, and they were talking about potentially looking at some sort of research facility. And I said, well, that sounds neat and great and all, but I could use $1 billion because that was the number, and just sewer and water and wastewater. I'm going to say two naughty words, stormwater. We have lots of water infrastructure that we need. Like I said in my opening statement, that's systematic to the problems that we aren't overcoming. Mr. Enzi hates housing and talking about housing, but it's something we are getting drug into because he can't recruit a company without homes. And so that's why we worked on fast track permits. That's why WAM's trying to come to the table of, we don't want to be the problem anymore. So what do we do to reduce that regulation? I don't think it's necessarily we need money for building. It's the infrastructure to recruit those developers to make it turnkey, because they're going to look, especially as we're right here in Cheyenne on the Front Range, there's turnkey 60 miles south of here. So we just want to make that quick and easy as possible, especially in Kimmer as it explodes. What do they need to do to keep up with that growth?
We have MRG money. We've talked about consensus grants. We've got a lot of tools, but we need to sharpen some of them.
Mr. Chairman, one thing about MRG, the last round of awards, I felt kind of sad about. One of the applicants was Bighorn Hospital District, and they asked for deferred maintenance on carpet. And that just kind of shows you how underfunded some of these districts are. And then City of Newcastle was asking for half of funding for a police car. So it goes back to this conversation that you guys have been having around the tax structure. We are so appreciative, and I want to thank everyone up here for getting us across the finish line for direct distribution and having reliable, stable funding. I think that's going to help a ton for us to be able to plan better. Because we're just in a unique position as Wyoming, and a great position with more cows than people. But cows don't pay as many taxes. So economic development exists for high tide lift boats, and the metrics is key of like, what are those metrics going to be? And in my opinion, it's the tax base paying the bills of what we're investing. And then you see that dollar flip over. So.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Obermueller. Okay, good. The floor is wide open for you then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't take too much time. Pete Obermueller, President of the Petroleum Association of Wyoming. I don't like throwing my colleague, Mr. Detail, under the bus. I missed the first 4 minutes of the
But I
meeting.
enjoy it when you do.
Yeah, right. He does too, actually. I just wanted to follow up real quickly on that first suggestion of the follow-on energy dominance. I think this committee has often taken a look at, more easier topics to wrap our heads around in terms of DEQ permitting and Oil and Gas Conservation Commission and et cetera, et cetera. Our idea on that is to take a little bit more holistic look about the kinds of obstacles in Wyoming from other sources that perhaps this committee doesn't spend a lot of time talking about. So we can, and I think we should, always take a look at how DEQ is doing on staffing and permitting times, et cetera. That's part of it. How the Oil and Gas Conservation Commission is doing. Both of them are doing well, but we also have topics related to state lands and leasing and development on state lands. Often those topics often land in agriculture because it's agriculture and state lands, but then it ends up being a discussion about how it affects agriculture, not about how state lands is doing on oil and gas leasing. We have some significant issues with the Department of Revenue and the Department of Audit and the way that they operate in relation to us. And that gets wrapped up in really technical and, dare I say, boring tax topics, but there's significant barriers to us being able to provide the kind of revenue that Ms. Harpshuth was just talking about to do other economic development, et cetera. So I think there's a lot of things that this committee can and should be aware of with respect to oil and gas development, and that's why we brought that topic and why we asked for that many hours, quite frankly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Mr. Obermueller? Representative Lawley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Obermueller, so I'd kind of grouped the industrial siting, and we've got 3 on that are kind of related. what I'm hearing you say is that's sort of outside the scope of what you were asking for. Should that be a separate topic, or we take it up separately? Do you think it would fit under here with a certain amount of time limit on? I'm trying to understand that factor.
Mr. O'Leary?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Vallalde, I think it could. Oil and gas specifically doesn't fall under industrial siting all that much. Quite frankly, if we took all those topics I suggested, we don't have enough time anyway, so they can be prioritized. There's just, I think with the discussion we had about water, et cetera, there's so much of this that takes place in other committees, and they all do great work. They're just focused on their particular aspect of it. And sometimes I feel like this committee, with oversight over what we do, sometimes doesn't quite have that full understanding of the obstacles that we face. So industrial siting could certainly be on there if it was a priority. It just probably wouldn't be my top priority.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. O'Leary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate your indulgence.
Anyone else that'd like to come and testify? Director Parfit, anything we can do for your organization? You seem to be in front of us a lot. If we don't hear from you, we're going to assume you're just happy with the things as they are.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And yes, generally speaking, I am happy with the way things are now, but I did want to point out that the travel committee does have an industrial siting topic as well. So that would be 4 topics on industrial siting. I don't know if it makes sense to combine them or not. That one's specific to wildlife mitigation. So just
so
point that out.
The management council will try to narrow that down then, and so that we're not duplicating our efforts. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yep.
That's the second year that's happened.
Yep. Anything else from your department, Director, that we need to be aware of, something that we can help with or hinder?
Certainly not asking for anything that would hinder, but appreciate the opportunity. No, I think we're good with the topics as have been laid out.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any other public testimony? Any other requests? Any online? All right, we will close public comments. Committee, is there any discussion? Any discussion? Co-Chair Anderson.
How soon do we have to have these topics into the management council? What?
Mr. Fuller?
Yep. Mr. Chairman, Chairman Anderson, I'm not sure when that meeting is going to be held. I would suggest though for ease, and organization, if we could work on the topics, sometime this week, that would be helpful.
So we need to get these topics into us.
Yeah.
This week.
Hopefully by
before
tomorrow,
Friday?
and then you and I can arm wrestle, because I lost last time.
Yes, you
He
did.
looks like an old man, but he's got some strength in that arm wrestling.
Yes, you did.
So, yeah, so we'll get all of these topics together, and then the co-chair and I will discuss what we can prioritize as a group, and then send it all out to comment from the committee so that you're all in accordance with what direction we're headed. And if we all agree, then we'll submit that to LSO for our topics for the summer. Okay. Seeing no more conversation, this meeting is adjourned.
Good job. Good job. You were way quicker.